Divya, unmute your system. Okay. So after my small introduction, you can share your screen. Before that, I have to close my screen. Then only you are able to share your screen. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm welcoming you all for this guest lecture. Today we are having here our guest, Ms. Divya Edluri. She is working as a CRO, Clinical Data Management in IQVIA, Bangalore. And we are proudly saying that she is our alumni student and one of the best student the Chalpadi product and the student we are having. And you all must know that how she contributed for the ISPAR ANU student chapter. She was the main key to get more number of grants for the ISPAR ANU student chapter. You can interact with her freely without any hesitation. You can clarify your doubts, not only regarding the CDM and other opportunities what you are having in your future and how you have to concentrate on your internship, as well as if you are having any doubts regarding the clerkship activities and your project related activities, you can interact with her. I hope that she can give clear guidance for you. So I would like to invite Ms. Divya Edluri for her presentation here. Before that, I would like to tell for all the students, don't be calm or just listening the lecture for an half an hour or 40 minutes without interacting. How much you are interacting, that much knowledge you are going to get here. So please utilize this opportunity. Thank you, Divya, for your acceptance. You may have busy with your schedule, but you have accepted for giving of this guest lecture. Once again, I'm welcoming you for Chalpadi.
Thank you, ma'am.
You can, so I'm now handovering to Divya. I will minimize my slide. I will stop my sharing. Then you can share your PPT.
Sure.
Now you can share, Divya.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sharing. Can you see it? Ma'am, are you able to see the screen?
Yes. Please you maximize.
Yeah. Okay. I think someone is waiting in the waiting room.
Yes, I'm doing with that.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Divya. I don't know how many of you know me earlier when I was there at Chalpati, but I think few of you know because I'm seeing some names which I can recognize, but trust me, I'm very bad with remembering names. Sorry for that. But I think from third year onwards, students are here and I'm pharmacy students, if I'm not wrong. So today I'm here to discuss about clinical data management, the current field I'm working on. So feel free to ask your doubts or whatever you have before whenever you have any doubt, please feel free to raise your hand. I think I'm seeing an option there that you can raise a hand, you can give your responses, you can ask me to stop or continue a little faster like that, whatever you need. just feel free to share. I'm nothing new. I'm just the same product which went out from Chalpati. So nothing much we need to feel any, upstance or something. Feel free, guys. So I hope everyone is able to see the screen. So my topic is CDM and how it is playing a more important role right now in clinical trials. Okay. So before going to the topic, I just want to let you know whatever the minute thing we do, that has a huge impact at one or the other point. So I think when we are talking about CDM, this is the one quote I want to let you all know how it will takes place in the CDM actually. So whatever the minute activity you do, it has a major impact on the clinical trial you are handling it. So just remember this, you will understand why I want to quote this when we are moving forward. I think someone named Alan Rose was trying to say something. Alan Rose, do you want to say anything or? Okay. Okay. So coming to the interaction, so what you people think about clinical data management? I know there are, n number of definitions, nothing defines exactly what this is. You may have so many bookish, definitions or all those compiled abbreviations for these and all. I don't want that. I just want to clearly give you what I feel, what actually the CM is. Managing the data, what we have got into what we need and what is required. So nothing when we collect the data from patient or subject what we are treating. So in clinical trials, we never say patient, sorry. We always use the term subject. So whatever data we get from the subject is not everything important. We never consider that it's not important. So if it is not important, we shouldn't collect that at all. So that's a waste of resource and also whatever data we got, managing that into what we need and what's required for the federal regulations, that's what clinical data management actually does. So simply managing the data, that's it. The definition and the statement itself are clear enough. So the below whatever I have provided in the slide is something what I call a bookish definition. You can review that later. I will share this slides later. And so when does this clinical data management comes into picture? So many of people thinks that as we are managing the data, so everyone thinks the process starts after the data was received, but that's not true. Actually, this comes into picture very earlier at the first step of clinical trials, that is protocol finalization. So when someone wants to start a clinical trial. So preclinical was done. So the trial is good to move. There was an NDA done. So they're moving to phase 1 or whatever the phase they're thinking. So when the protocol is being finalized, the first step we need to do is we need to think how a data management plan needs to look. Okay. So that's the point when even before the protocol is finalized, the CDM starts its step, and even after all the data is we got all the data, we managed and everything, then when the site is closed, still data management will have its impact on the clinical trial. Okay, so it's start to start, end to end. So what are the tools we use commonly in clinical data management? Those we call as clinical data management systems. So these are such systems which helps us to ensure our work, our quality, whatever we are doing, to do it in a smooth process. We all know that whatever the systems we incorporate in anything, they're just to ease our work, right? So these clinical data management systems are also such type. So these are nothing but the databases which we use, the process which we use to do this activity. They are nothing but clinical data management systems. I will explain what are the databases commonly used and all when we are moving into more depth. Okay. So the major thing, whoever are involved in clinical data management. So up until now, we are discussing what's happening, how, when does it comes into picture, what actually I mean about clinical data management. So these are the roles which you are seeing on the screen, are the participants or the performers, key roles, which play an important role in the data management. So there we will have a data manager, a programmer, coder, data coordinator, designer, programming team, validation team, quality control, of course, at a very important step, and data entry associates. So I will go in depth what they do. And the next, the same slide will repeat at the end, I think. At that point, you will be in a better position to answer where, I mean, you can clearly understand where each personnel will be having their impact in the trial on data management. So how it's tracked, and so see, everything we have as a huge wholesome amount, right? So when we need to learn or teach or something, we need to get the knowledge about that. We need to know how it works actually. In the same way, we starts to separate it into building steps, right? And the same way, CDM also, it doesn't work at the start flow. Okay, this trial is there. We need to start from this point. It doesn't work like that. So they do have, a small breakdown like steps. So here in the clinical trial data management systems, we have three major track down steps. Okay, first one is setup, conduct, and close out. So when a trial starts, the data management has some initial activities to be taken. So they were all gathered and kept into one tab, that is setup. So the study setup is where there are a few bunch of activities which clinical data management team needs to do. So they were all added into this. And next we have conduct. So when the trial is going on, you mean like they started to have a drug, they were treating a drug, a placebo randomized trial. They were starting to do that, and the trial is going on. When the trial is going on, whatever activities as a data management team does, those were all compiled into conduct phase. Okay, and when the trial is ended, that means the study time period what the sponsor has decided is done. Then data management needs to do few things, and they were all compiled into closeout phase. Okay. So before we go into depth, I mean, let me give some commonly used terms. When I'm continuing in this session, I will use most commonly few words, that is sponsor, very important, safety team. I mean, I don't know whether that will come. Subject, we know that's the people who are involved in the trial. We refer them as a subject when it comes to data management. Even in clinical trials, I think you use the same name. And those are the familiar words I think I will use. And if you at any time you didn't understand what the term or a name I'm referring to, feel free to stop me. Okay. So as I said, there were three different steps: setup, conduct, and close out. We will go into each how what actually happens. So before going into that, let me ask you how many of here the participants are from fifth year, those who are right now in fifth year or sixth year. Just raise your hands, that would be enough. No need to mute or something. Yeah, thanks, Pratyusha. Okay, Pratyusha, I hope you did a clinical trial. Yeah, I can see Shivraj. I can see so many. Thanks for the active participation. Okay, so most of you are in the process of doing your project work, or you have already done, you submitted your thesis, right? So how many of you actually created your own, way of protocol? Can anyone, like, how you did? I don't need, I mean, what you did and all. Just explain me 3 steps what you did as a part of your, project work. Like you decided a theme, then how you have proceeded. Just anyone can unmute yourself and explain me what you did or what you are going to do. That's fine with me. Anyone? Come on, guys. I'm not going to eat you.
What were the aims and objectives of the title?
Okay. So can you just, I can't see your name, the person who is speaking.
Navakomali.
Sorry?
Navakomali.
Okay, Komali. Yeah, you can tell me.
Aims and objectives of regarding the title.
Okay.
And what was the methodology or something like literature in a brief
Okay.
point.
Okay.
And next, what were the any scales or any data collection form we will include in that.
Okay.
And finally, bibliography and inclusion and exclusion criteria. These are the main we include in protocol.
Good, good. And I thank you for bringing up the point inclusion and exclusion criteria. And thank you, Komli. So as Komli said, first we will create what was the aim, why you have started the trial. It's common everywhere, even in the clinical trial also. First, we will have an aim, whether we need to prove the efficacy, whether we need to prove the safety. If we want to do a large number of, we want to check the, the efficacy and safety in a large number of sector, that, or if we want to see the post-marketing surveillance, how the drug is doing in the market. So whatever it may be, that's a part of clinical trial, and that's our aim. So as everyone know, right, you know that there are primary objectives and secondary objectives, right? Even though you start, for example, my thesis is I am reviewing the ART patients. So my major objective is to see their outcomes when they're on the ART treatment, how the outcomes are there. That's my primary objective. So same way we have the secondary objectives also. These secondary objectives are something like you are doing the trial, you can draw out these pictures also, right? So you will have primary objectives and secondary objectives. So once you have this primary objective and secondary objectives in your mind, as Komali said, you will also review all the bibliography data which is there. I mean, previously done about the trial or how it is done and all, right? So for example, here you have a disease for which your drug is going to be as a treatment option, right? You have your primary option set as efficacy. You need to prove the efficacy of the drug and safety as well. Okay, we'll take that as well. So safety and efficacy is the primary objective, and secondary objectives will include how the drug is impacting the subject, how his patient outcomes are being impacted, and all of these comes as secondary objectives. Okay. Now you have a drug, you have your primary objective, and you know which disease it's going to impact. So next, what you will do? So you need to move on with the trail, right? So in that trail, what you will do? Can anyone say? So I have all my initial requirements. Okay, I have all my procurements with me. So what I should do to move my clinical trial into the next step? Anyone from 50 years? I think you have this clinical data management entire subject with you right now. Anyone? I can see a lot of
Ethical committee approval.
Okay, ethical committee approval. But who is this? Just please introduce yourself. That would be very easy.
Monica.
Monica. Okay, Monica. So before you go to ethical committee, you get needs to. That's important step. You need to get the ethics committee review also. But what you will do before you go to ethics committee meeting? How you will? I mean, how you will justify that your whatever you are going to do is correct. So first of all, you need to provide them a plan, right? What you're going to do before you go to ethics committee meeting, right? So
A protocol.
Yes, Mahesh.
Protocol.
Correct. Thank you. That's what I was waiting for the answer. We need to prepare a protocol, right? So this is the protocol which will have every detail how we are going to conduct the trial. So it will have what are the inclusion criteria, what was the trial actually, what are your primary objectives, what you are expecting, how you are going to select, what are the inclusion criteria, what are the exclusion criteria, how the study design will be there, everything, and how the dosing will be done, how the placebo and randomization will be done, how the assessments will be collected, each and every step, the entire thing will be our protocol. So data management team always refers protocol as Bible. So for data management team, protocol is the Bible. Whatever is there in the protocol, it's literally like a Vedic transcript. Okay, we need to follow it blindly. So that's the major step we do when we set a trial, finalizing the protocol. So as we consider something as a Bible, so we should always, include each and everything, right? It's a law book right now. So if anything is not there in the protocol, it's not necessary for your clinical trial. So initially, you need to ensure that everything is covered in your protocol. You can't have an incomplete or improper protocol, right? So when you do set up your trial, you will have a lot of information gathered, and then you will prepare your study design, what's so called as methodology. All this needs to be there in the protocol. As Monica said, we will go to ethics committee meeting, right? So before going to that, before reaching out to a third party who will decide whether we need to go to the clinical trial, we need to move further or not, first of all, we need to ensure that we have everything in our bag. which is needed, which is required for our primary objective and all. Okay. So clinical data management plays that important role in protocol finalization. So how we will understand what we need to collect if we don't have a sound objective and sound methodology? If we are not clear, like as I said earlier, we have a disease, then we need to go in depth of the disease, how the disease is going to impact, how everything is. So we need to know, ensure whatever parameters of that drug and that disease we need to have in our final report. So we need to have that vision. Based on that, we will create our protocol. So coming to the next step, that's called startup. So the first thing, we'll have some pretty decisions to make as a data management. Okay. First, we will select, do the protocol finalization. That means we will ensure that whatever the sponsor major motto is, I had a sponsor, or I am a sponsor. So I need to ensure that my protocol covers everything, each and every assessment, how it's to be done, each and every necessity or drug administration, every task is in detailed and clearly provided there, how the data needs to be entered and whatever data needs to be. That's the important step data management does in the first step, before the study starts. Once we have our protocol finalized, then we will have this important decision that which tool we need to use. So here, as I said earlier, we have some pretty good data management systems, right? So tools and databases which we use for the data management. So is anyone aware, like what are the commonly used databases? Or I'm not expecting you, but if anyone knows, please feel free to share. Does anyone know what are the common databases we use in the data management system? No? Okay. So there are so many data management systems, okay, based on these were the tool which we are going to use. The selection criteria is always based on our budget. First thing, and we can't neglect that. Budget is prime importance, and sponsor always relies on our budget only. So within what budget we receive. Next one, the quality. We do have certain restrictions, and we can't simply do and take up some databases which can't provide all the features. We do have certain features whatever is required for us. And audit trail, I will explain what audit trail is. That's one of the important key step while they're selecting the database. Okay, so right now, how the clinical trials are happening at present is two ways. Either EDC, that means electron data capture, whatever the data we get for that clinical trial will be captured in an electronic format or in a paper format. Okay, whatever we do at 5th year or 6th year, if we are doing a project, that's all paper studies, right? We will have our CRF, the case report form with us, right? You have created one, whatever the data you need to collect. You will have all those forms when you are going to see certain subjects. If you feel that subject is fitting your inclusion exclusion criteria, you will get the authorization from them, informed consent, and then you will have the data entered into specific format, right? How many of you have prepared clinical, ECRF or CRF form, case report form, during your project 5th years? I think you must have started it already.
Still not started.
Yes. So thank you, Komli. So that's, if we continue with the same paper, that's called paper studies. Okay. What happens in the paper studies? We will get all the data. We will go to the subjects. We will get them. We will collect the data and enter whatever data is required as per our CRF format. And then we will evaluate. We will use that data to evaluation, right? So how in EDC, the electron data capture systems happens is you don't have any subject format, ECR, paper ECR for something. All you have is you will have a system having a database with ECRFs already incorporated in that. So you need to go enter the data there, and then the data will be used for the further process. Right now, paper studies are very minimal because it includes a lot of labor and a lot of people. So right now we are all in the way of automation, right? So EDC is the best way. It will reduce the manpower and labor we need to work on the same. And what electronic data capture does is, as you have the data in this as in a metadata form, you can do whatever you want with that data. But when it is on a paper, again you need to enter it into some EDC format, or some you need to create the metadata from the papers, which is again a manual labor. So when you do EDC studies, already data is being entered into a metadata format, so you can do whatever you want. It's not restrictive. You can just play with the data you have at that moment. Okay, example, you have something on your, you need to compile some data regarding to your classmates. The list, you have all those list of your classmates on a paper, and then you have all the details of that classmate, like he's in this grade, he is at this place, or he's reporting to this professor or something. You have all this in a paper. Suddenly someone comes and asks you, like, let me know how many people are there under recruiting, who are reporting to Shamila ma'am. So how you will let you know? So if it is in your Excel format, it's just seconds matter, right? It's because you have it on a metadata format. If you have it on paper, you need at least 10 seconds minimum to read how many are there, then to compile. The same way, that's the major difference, paper studies and EDC. When it comes here, I have given a simple example, right? You have a variation of 4 seconds or 5 seconds. But when it comes to huge data, you're having like thousands of people's data. At that time, you can't risk, or you can't have that factor of impacting factor using paper studies, right? If it is phase 1 or phase 2 and where you don't have much data, you don't have much budget, paper studies are really good. They come within your budget, they will have enough work to do. Just 20 subjects you can do, you can enter them later into, you can create metadata later, and then you can derive your results. But when you're dealing with phase 3 subjects or phase 4 subjects, whatever, in that case, you will have thousands. Literally, I have handled trials where there were 34,000 subjects. And you can't imagine handling 34,000 subjects data in paper, right? That's very impossible. That's the major difference based on your trial volume, budget, and the complexity of the trial. So if you are having double blind randomized, you are having a placebo control, you are having simultaneous combination therapy going on, in that case, the complexity of your trial increases. So when the complexity increases, you need to ease it in the maximum way for your deriving your results or something. In that case, EDC will help. Paper studies are simpler, they're easy, and they're very friendly to the site personnel who is conducting the trial. Literally, if someone says that you are in a paper study, that CRA will feel so relaxed, because there is nothing like audit and all going on. They will feel very relaxed and they enjoy paper studies. But EDCs are finally very important. EDC studies are sponsor friendly, when you can put in that way. Paper studies are always friendly for the site entry percent, and EDCs are friendly for sponsor and data management. So commonly used are we have few companies who will provide these type of databases, that is Medidata. They provide a platform called Rave, database called Rave, and these have its own versions. Okay, they have their own, based on small changes, they have their own versions, how it is differed. And the other one is Oracle based, we call it as Inform. So these are the two commonly used. There were so many other and newly upcoming databases also. I don't know how many. We don't know what's the next in the future. Many of you may be part of creating new databases as well. So this is never ending process. Whichever is easy, having all the regulations being followed and everything is covered, a new database will always emerge. Right now in the market, the ruling databases are Medidata Rave and Oracle's Inform. These two are very commonly used. Okay, as we know, we discussed about protocol finalization and then designing the CRF. So as I said, previously discussed, we will have the CRF created, right? How the data needs to be entered into our trail. In the same way, here also, we will create in the paper studies or even in the EDC trials, we will create CRFs, the case report forms. just like as we are doing, I mean, 5th years or 6th years, when we do the project, we will have only 1 or 2 CRFs, right? Which will cover entire data. We will have the columnized data sets, and there we will go and ask, like, for example, what was your demographics, sex, age, and all. Those were all covered in one tabular format only. When we see, that's how we collect. But when it comes to data, I mean, EDC or something, each and every format will be a ECRF. For example, you are saying I'm collecting demographics. Demographics will be a special CRF. So in demographics CRF, you will see age, gender, race, his what was his birth history and all. Everything will be there in the demographics page. So when someone comes up and asks you, like, give me demographics data of your subjects, you will just need to extract only one CRF, that is called demographics. So for that ease and for that, unique identification, we create individual CRFs for everything. So we will create individual CRFs for the subject identification, for adverse event collection, for CM collection, I mean, concomitant medications, what they are taking. We will have the therapy details in one separate ECRF. All these ECRFs, we will create separate. So that's the part of, in the initial, when the trial is going to be set up or start up, at that time, we need to design all such ECRFs required for the trial. It's not mandated that every time you will do all the ECRFs at the first only. The maximum what we do is, before we start go live, as per our protocol, we will collect everything whichever required, and we will create all possible ECRFs to collect that data which is required for our trial. For example, efficacy, I am saying. So you need to know what all the efficacy parameters. So how you will identify the efficacy parameters. You need to know what was the blood, how much of the drug is there in his blood, what was the outcomes, like how his disease is progressing, and how adverse events to safety information, all these. So you need to ensure each and every primary objective and secondary objective, what you are thinking of, to derive that information, whichever data you need to create those ECRFs. So, okay. We will create all such ECRFs, and then how we will create. Again, here our Bible helps. We have the protocol, right? We have a standard, literally 100 pages of protocol. We will read, we will create each and everywhere what is required, and then we will create all the ECRFs. And then we will annotate that ECRF. Annotation means, how we can say, yeah. So right now you have everything in your own language, but you are entering it into a database, right? So database also needs to have its own language. Don't think that it is some other language like Java and all. No, not like that. When you are extracting or doing separate trails of, I mean, you are getting the data in another format, you can't get this entire name. For example, there is a data field which we collect, whether this adverse event is occurred before or after the injection. So this entire lengthy statement will be there in your ECRF, so that you will ask the same question to your subject. But when you are pulling this data, or when you are reviewing this data, you can't get that big. Okay, the metadata increases volumes itself. So what you do, for each and every variable, for each and every data point you keep in the ECRF, you will annotate it. For example, there is start date. So we will call a CM start, CM STT. That's a small abbreviation kind of thing. That's forming those abbreviations is called annotation. So these annotations will help in retrieving your data from the database. So these annotations are also pretty important. So that's another task. And completion guidelines. So you are the data management team. You know how the data needs to be entered into the database, but the site personnel is new. If you are doing a trial, you have your ECRF, one of the other trial you are asking your friend to, collect the data for you. So right now he's your data entry associate, one of your friend. Behalf of you, he's collecting the data. When he suddenly sees the data, what does he feel? Do he get the point? I mean, can he understand what actually you are trying to collect in that CRF? No, right? You need to explain, like, okay, here there is the date. When was the disease diagnosed? So here they need to update a complete date. Here they can give a partial date. Here this column is called age, and they need to give the data. So all these you will explain to him in person. Generally, when we are dealing with our own set of project level, what we will do when we are asking our friend to collect the data, we will just explain him the entire ECRF. But when it comes to clinical trials, just imagine your clinical trials never be at one center. They will be multi-center. Like, because you are trying to prove a point, so it doesn't need to impact the geographic area, right? Mostly all clinical trials are multi-center. So you will have the data being collected from different sites. I don't know how many, like thousands of sites will be working on that. You can't literally have a call and explain them every time they have a doubt, right? So we create these guidelines, completion guidelines. So this is the ECRF. For example, demographics. This have 4 or 5 data points like age, sex, date of birth, and race, Hispanic history, everything. Like there are 4 or 5 certain data points over there. Then you will give a completion guidelines also with them. Attach them with the completion guidelines. What these completion guidelines will give? They will give example and they will explain what actually needs to be filled in that data point every time. For example, there is a data field called age in your ECRF. Then this completion guideline will give you details about age. Here you need to give the age when the subject entered the trail at visit 1. When he's started this trail, what was the age that needs to be filled here? All these details will be there in your completion guidelines. So when you have this completion guidelines, you will just share them. These will be unique. They won't be differed from one side to another side. Everyone will follow the same thing. So the data you get will be same across the trail, wherever the trail is running. It may be continent separated, but the same guidelines needs to be followed everywhere, right? So that's the reason why we create completion guidelines. Those needs to be created before we go into the trail. And next, how we will clean. Okay, till now we have discussed what was the data we need, how we will create, how we will know what data we needed, and then how we will collect them by creating ECRFs, and then how we will ensure that same data and same way data is being collected everywhere. We will create completion guidelines. So now we know that how data can be obtained, but now we need to create a path how the data we got will be cleaned. So what the data management system do? They will create a plan. Simply EDC cleaning plan means electronic data captured system cleaning plan. So that plan would be overwhelming with you if I discuss now, because you need to get into the topic and you need to hands-on work. So I don't think that's right now important to you. So the another part as a setup is we need to create a plan how we will clean it. Okay, and then we know that we have created this database, right? Like how my database needs to look. And then we need to ensure the database is working fine. Okay, for each and every simple thing, we don't need to go and ask the site you didn't enter the data properly. Even though you refer to database guidelines, how the data needs to be entered, they are humans and human errors happen at very frequent way, right? So you need to ensure that simple checks which can be clearly ruled out are incorporated in our database. For example, date of birth. So they have given date of birth without year. Okay, they missed the year. The site didn't enter the year. Immediately, the database will be created in such a way that there will be an auto query that you missed the data year of birth that is required as per the protocol. All these are the simple edit checks which will be inbuilt in your EDC. Okay, so we need to ensure all those inbuilt checks are working. That's the part of that is also important role of clinical data management. And then we will see all the guidelines, specifications, edit checks. These are all like how we are going to clean it. All these needs to be obtained. This is the things we need to do as a level of at the point of startup. I think most of you can review it, or this is the same thing. You can relate these things when you are working with your project works right now. Can you relate, or is this something like you're feeling it as like a different, completely out of Greek and Latin? You are feeling like that, or are you feeling this is the same thing but a level of sophistication is increased? Can anyone respond?
It's same, but the level of sophistication is increased, I think.
Yeah. So we are doing in a minute level, right, Mahesh? So when we are doing the clinical trials or sponsor is involving a lot of budget on that. So we increase our sophistication. That's why we feel. But same thing, whatever you are doing in your project right now, same thing we are working in data management.
Yes.
Sorry for the sound. Okay, coming to conduct. So now we have everything in your bucket, what we need to do, how we need to move forward, right? So when we do everything, we created our own database, we created how the database needs to be looked, we decided how whatever the data we need to collect, how it needs to be updated in database, everything is done. Now what we will do, we will have our first subject. So how we will differentiate the trail has entered from setup phase to conduct phase, okay? So conduct phase, we will say that conduct phase has kicked in when the first patient's first visit happened and his data is entered into the EDC. Okay, for example, you have decided that you need to collect about 2000 subjects data. Then at one site, initial site, they have done as per the protocol's inclusion and exclusion criteria, they collected the data. That subject passed and he has provided his informed consent to enter into the trial. And then his first visit happened. That's the moment when we say that conduct phase has started. So from that moment onwards, data management team needs to start its conduct activities. Okay. The first patient, first visit in data management terms or in their language, they will call as go live. Like they started living off in the trail. That's why they start as go live. That clinical trail is literally born right now. That's what they define. Okay, so when this forms, the data coordination comes up. Okay, the data associate, entry associate, mostly the CRO, I mean the CRAs, the associates who are working at the site. Sometimes it might be the physician, but mostly no, it won't be physicians. It would be like paramedical staff, like a nurse or a pharmacist, whoever will be there. They will be the person who will be entering this data. Of course, the doctor, the physician is the first primary person who will collect all this data. That's the investigator. But it's very rare that investigator enters the data into EDC. You know, it's a tiresome work. You have n number of ECRFs and someone who is doing the trial needs to come and enter the data. That doesn't happen quite frequently. I know that there are few physicians who are very helpful, but most of them, they won't do that. It will be mostly nurses or pharmacists or paramedical staff who is involved in that trial. They will enter the data which is collected by the investigator. Okay, they will start entering the data into our EDCs. So how the things happen in the conduct phases, we will have this data collection and CRF tracking. So we can't say that at the end of the data collection is done, everything is done. Then at that time point, we say, no, we forgot to ask one data point, one ECRF to be updated by the subject. We can't say that, right? Because we lost the time, we lost all the resources at that moment. So we always needs to do it at the time to time basis. So today you are expecting, as per your protocol, you are expecting this subject to do so and so activities. Then at the same time, data management team should also ensure that whether all the data as per your protocol is collected or not. If anything is missing, immediately they will reach out to the site personnel saying that as per our protocol, we need this data, but this is not there in the entry you have done today. So kindly review and confirm. If there is any understandings or resolutions, then we will go into that part, how to resolve that issue. Okay, but this needs to happen in the timely base. So we have this turnaround time like 5 days, okay, in the data management team. Like we usually follows that. So whenever we have an issue or we identify an issue, we need to resolve it within 5 days. Like that's the 5 business days. Within 5 business days, you need to respond to the data management team or you need to query to the site, whatever it's the same both ways. The data entry associate will take 5 days to resolve and look into that issue and resolve and then respond back to you. In the same way, when the data is entered, it's your responsibility. Within 5 days, you need to review it and get back to the site. Okay, that's nothing but CRF tracking once the data is collected. Data entry, as I said, mostly it will be done by data entry associate. Some clinical data management teams will do it themselves when it comes to paper trails and all. So what happens, the site people, they will collect the data on the paper ECRFs, then they will take the Xerox, they will scan those copies and they will send the scanned copies to the central level data entry people. Like, so paper studies might be happening at 2 or 3 different sites. What they will do, they will collect all the data they have collected for each subject and they will send to you via certain portal way. These are the data ECRs today we have collected. Then the data entry associates, they will sit at the central level organizations, like they will be in the final firm level organizations or something at the sponsor end. They will sit there. Then what they will do, they will get those scanned copies. They will review that and then they will enter that into metadata format, like into a clinical data, that database type of thing. It's not completely the same as EDC, but they do have a separate database to enter the paper studies also. Then they will start entering into the thing. The thing here is, if we have any questions in paper trail related, if the data entry associate or the clinical data management who is cleaning that data got a query, there is a lot of process to go back to the person who actually collected that data. First, you need to go to the data entry site, personal, asking whether you have entered the correct data or not. Then you need to go back again. That data entry person will go back to site, asking whether this is the correct data which you recorded in your paper ECRF is correct or not. Then they will check with the investigator, again with subject, and again the process comes back. So there is a lengthy process of resolution each issue. But when it comes to electronic data capture, nothing happens like that. If you have an issue, you will post it in your database and that will be reviewed by your site and investigator at a time. So the process of resolution issues are very less in the data capture, EDC databases. Next, data validation. So whatever the data is being entered into that, we will review and we will evaluate whether it is as per guidelines, which we have created in at the start of the trial. Discrepancy management. So there are some issues, like you find out that this is not, for example, we collect a subject as per your inclusion criteria, the subject should not be less than 18 years. It should not be a pediatric population. But suddenly when you are entering data, you have seen a subject who is of 16 years age. Then you can't enter that, right? So you will query whether the date of birth is correct or whether the subject was misly entered into the trial without proper review. Like that, we will ask them. Site will either, there is 2 possibilities in this scenario. Either they have mishandled the subject, then they will remove the subject from the trial, or they have might entered a wrong date of birth, which is leading us with a wrong age group. So that's how the discrepancy management happens. So how we will identify that there is a discrepancy? When we have a sound knowledge on what we are handling. Okay, so if you need to excel in the discrepancy management or anything, first you need to understand what was the data you are handling. That's important step when you are working in a conduct phase. And next, clinical coding. So till now, this can be done with data manager or a data coordinator person and all, clinical data coordinator. Those people will handle all this, data entry associates and all. Clinical coding is something who are having the medical knowledge. They will standardize each and every term entered into your EDC. So as I said earlier, clinical trials might be global. We are collecting the data across the world. So the same way we represent diarrhea here, somewhere they will stay loose stools, but that's the common name. That's the same thing. Both are same, loose stools or diarrhea, vomiting or nausea. We say here vomiting, they might say regurgitation happened twice, like that. They have unique or specific terms or definitions they are following at their each institute. Each site might vary, even though they belong in the same country. Both won't be updating the same thing in the same way, right? So we need to standardize them. We need to collect the data in a standard format across the trial. For that, so what do you think? Whichever the terms or conditions you need to standardize actually in this case? What are the most unreliable formats we use? Just now I have explained one thing, medical terms. Medical terms are used in different way. Here we use constipation, somewhere they use some other thing. And you can't even realize that when you see such data, you will get astonished, like can this be reported in the same way like that? Okay, but there are n number of terms which can be represented in multiple ways. So for representing all them in a unique factor in a standardized way, we need coding. This is separate from medical coding, guys. It is not like how you do with others. This is clinical coding. So these people will deal only the data entered into your clinical database. Okay, so data which is collected during in and out of the clinical trial, that those people who codes them into a standard format, they're called clinical data coders, and that process is called as clinical coding. So this is something which as a medical, I mean, as you all know that you have a good amount of knowledge in the data terms or medical terms, medication which we are using, you can look up to. This is also one specific sector where clinical data management involves people who are having something as experienced as right now, PharmD students and M-Pharm students. So that's what actually happens in the conduct phase. So do anyone have any question regarding setup phase and conduct phase till now? No need of questions. If you have to add on anything, that's also fine. You know, sometimes I may be understanding the situation or the condition only based on what I am working on. But you might have understood or you might came to know a different perspective. You can bring it up here as well. Anything is there to add? Okay, I think I'm going in a monotonous way, isn't it? No more questions, no more. Just a minute. Okay. Next is a closeout phase. So till now we have started. So I will talk in the language of your database. I mean, how we are working. So we have created our own objectives. Then we have conducted the trial. That means we collected all the data. We have reviewed whether there are any issues. Then what we do? Then what the clinical data management team does. So in your project, what actually you do? Anyone can explain like what actually happens when you all got the data? Your project is done, guys. You have all the data you need as per your initial plan. So now what you will do? Come on, is everyone sleeping with a heavy lunch? Okay. We will close. We will review our data, right? Once we got all the data we needed. So now we will review and we will draw the outputs, outcomes, what we need. But data management, what data management does is when the last patient last visit happens, then this close out means all the subjects have completed. I mean, we are not expecting any more data. Then we will initiate the closeout activities. It includes like re-reviewing each and every data point which is being entered. We will review everything, whether everything is collected, done, reported, everything as per the guidelines we have created initially. Is every data which we need is obtained or not? Is there anything missing? If missing, what was the reason? All these needs to be re-verified. We will do that when the closeout phase enters. Literally, we will do all those 2 years or 3 years of activity again in the 3 months. We need to go through that. Then again, if there is any issues there, we will do queries to the site. That was the last chance to get them resolved. We will do that. And then we will ensure everything is collected. So now what we will do is we don't want site. Once we decide that subject data is entered, we don't want site to re-enter or change the data again, right? So what we will do is we will log the data. That means site is no more available to change any data points which are already entered. We will do that. We will ensure that we will close and lock every activity in the ECRF, and then we will lock the database. Once the database is locked, we will collect all the parameters we have, and then we will provide to biostatistician. This is when our 4th year actually plays in role, guys. Biostatistician will review all the data we have collected and reviewed up until now. Then he will, if in case he sees any discrepancies, he will come back If not, then they will start deriving the outcomes of the trial. And then we don't leave the data there, right? We have a database which is like a URL in our web search engines format. It will be just like a URL only. You will just enter, you will give credentials, then you can start entering and do whatever you want. You can't leave it there like that once the trial is ended. Then after the locking, what you will do, you will collect all the data of each site. You will ensure that data is preserved, whether we will store them in the format of a USB, we will collect all the data in the format of USB or in the CDs or whatever the most reliable and possible source we will do. We will ensure every data is obtained. Then we will send each copy to site. You know, right? Each site, wherever the clinical trial happens, they need to ensure that data is stored for 3 years minimum if the trial is prematurely discontinued, 5 years if the trial successfully ended and the drug launched into the market. So these data should be there at the site, because federal agencies have this option. They can search the site wherever the trial happened anytime. The ethics committee can search the trial when they have a question. They can ask the trial whenever happened. So in the electronic data capture method, so how the site can store is they will store this in the compact disk forms or floppy disk, whatever they have option. And then whenever there is a question of rise upon based on the guidelines till the data timelines for saving the data, if someone comes, they need to prove that they have the data. So we will, a data management team will collect all the data, preserve that, and then share to the site monitors and site people to have it. And then we will retrieve the database from the URL. I mean, then we will remove it from the search engine bar. So you can never review again that database in the search engine. That would be completely in, resting mode. It went to the tombstone. That's what we do. So now as first I have explained you who are the personals involved. First, data manager, he is the head, okay? He will review each and every activity happens. So data manager is nothing but, if I entered, as right now I am working as a clinical data specialist, I will say how the process will be there. So data management is nothing like a team lead. You will be on the head of the top. Your project is your motto. So you will design the protocol, you will do you will create the ECRF guidelines, everything. So this is the highest top level. And then comes database programmer and designer. So these are the database side. Like I have explained, Medidata is one of the commonly used, Rave and Inform, Oracle, right? Oracle, Medidata, these are the database providers. So they will have the programmers specifically who are, trained in that to create a database. So those people, we will provide the guidance, I mean, what is required, and based on our request, they will create the database. So this is nothing much related to us, but we do have impact on them as well. Like based on our source information only, the database programmer or designer can design the database. Next, clinical coder. If anyone wills, you can join the clinical coding department, because you have all the capabilities, because you have well exposure of medical knowledge, and how the drugs are there, everything. So you have absolute information on that. You can enter that field as well. Clinical data coordinator, this is the field which I have started, guys. Then I have been moved up a grade, but yeah, that's what I do. When I enter in the trail, I work as a clinical data coordinator. When I enter into the data management system, what I do, review and ensure everything is as per my protocol. Technical designer. So see, as a clinical data coordinator, I don't need to do all manual work, right? Because doing manual review, even though you have EDC, which is you have metadata also, you have the subject knowledge, what needs to be done there, but you are not the right person to, you don't have those resources to ensure that data is formatted into certain ways so that you can review it within minutes. You can do manually for hours, days, but these technical designers will create certain program check conditions. When they will run, the data will be reviewed within minutes. That will be done very easily. So that's what technical designer does. He creates check conditions. SAS programming, I don't know how many people are right now doing. I know many of you are aware about SAS programming. So these are the people who will use our metadata, which is gathered as a part of clinical data management. They will review this metadata using the edit checks the TD has designed, and then they will create those check conditions and give us only the discrepancies they found. We don't need to do the manual review. They will do the review using their systems and their knowledge. They will give us only the discrepancies, and the data management team will finally go and raise queries to the site. So that is one another important, very interesting field. If someone is interested in programming part, SAS programming, you can go there. Literally, that's one amazing field. There is a huge demand for SAS programmers as well. Means you need to have a proper SAS programming. Then you can use your clinical knowledge in that. Then validation. So whatever the SAS programming team does, these people will validate that, just like me only, just like clinical data coordinator, their validation team also have the same specifications, same knowledge. They will review whether whatever the SAS programming team has reviewed is correct or not. For once, they will ensure once it is done, the programming will run perfectly for the entire course. Quality control, just like any other process, we need to ensure our quality. And in clinical trials, quality is the key. You can't compromise on quality. Wherever you can compromise, you can, but quality is key. You can't do whatever you want. Everything needs to be as per the guidance. Then data entry associate. I don't think this is being done by, people like who are graduated and all. This is mostly done at the site personnel and paramedical staff only. So this is very rare where you are asked when you enter a CRO or when you enter a sponsor company. This is very rare when you are asked to do data entry. But still, there are some CROs who are still asking data entry to be done by us. So just for your information, but I think that's very less. So, okay, I have talked till now. So where are the standards? What are the standards and guidelines we follow as a data management team? What they follow? First thing, GCP, good clinical trial practices. We need to follow all those things. It's damn. And we knew why we have established that thing. I'm not going back to all those Declaration of Helsinki and all, but you need to, when you enter this data management department, you need to go through that again, guys. Better be prepared. They will ask you some nasty questions on that as well. And then Code of Federal Regulation. So as we create a ECRF, so how the ECRF needs to be built, there are also certain codes, like it should be auditable. Each and every change should be recorded. If you are changing date, you first enter the date into the ECRF today. 2 or 3 days later, then again you come and change. Those change, who has done that, what are the credentials, what was the time it was done, all these needs to be in an auditable way. That's a major important step for a database. So all those databases will follow this. Right now, whichever we have in the market, everything is as per compliant to these guidelines only. These are all taken care by the service providers, like those, the data management systems, database systems only will give us ensurety. And then clinical data management guidelines, CDISC, everything. This all, roughly, not clearly, but roughly they all revolve around our GCP guidelines only. Each and every data, how we need to know, we need to ensure the safety, identity, confidentiality, everything. They all revolves in that. So we never see a subject name or thing. All our identification codes and all will follow in a specific way that they can't be revealed to the people who are working on there until they are known only to the sponsor in specific ways. Until unless no one knows who is actually getting the drug, who is actually being treated with a placebo, everything. So this all rounds around that. And then, okay. Someone of you are interested in entering this field, clinical data management. What makes you outstanding? First one is Excel knowledge. How many of you have used Excel to draw your reports for your final thesis in 5th year? Anyone 6th year person can let me know? Yes or no, it's fine. I used it, but I don't know. I haven't used it to that level. Yes, Pratyusha, you have used. Very good. So those who have used Excel, they will know how much brilliant tool we have within our hands. It really helps, guys. When you are having that analytical thinking of using Excel for your data, you have a metadata with you. You need to review that. And if you know the clinical process, how you need to do, and then if you know little bit about the Excel, how can you implement that, I'm sure you will do the manual reviews within minutes. Like you will do it on tips only. People might be struggling there. People who are having the same knowledge as you will be sitting you behind you. If they don't have this thinking, you will do the same work in 10 minutes. They might be doing it for the next 10 hours also. That's the differentiation. You need to understand how you can implement. I'm not saying that you need to have very much knowledge about Excel. Whichever company you are joining as a fresher, they will give you a proper training. Your mentee, whoever is there, who is monitoring you in the department, will provide you what you need to be done. The only thing is you can't say that I don't know what Excel is. Okay, you can go and say that, okay, this is a cell, this is a column, I know this much. You can say I can put a sum formula. That's it. That's the basic. And you can say that if you know that, you can rule the CDM. Literally everything you can learn once you entered into the department. No, I don't know. What I did in my project is literally I have entered all the data in the spreadsheets. The only thing I did is I have separated subjects based on their sex, based on their age. These are the 5 things I did so that I can draw the reports. And then I did percentage evaluations for reviews. So that really helped. Okay, when you put your hands on the Excel and then immediately you come to some department where Excel is ruling it, and you will feel like, oh God, I know this, I can do that, like that. Analytical thinking and problem solving. There is an issue every time. So I'm not saying CDM is something like that. It won't have any issues at all. The only thing which makes you define and outstanding in your career is how you dealt with that problem. CDM is something like always sponsor will come and ask you why this happened, how this happened, everything. But you need to be standing on your grounds and you need to provide a solution for that. Problems will be arised. The only thing is how you are going to solve that and how you are thinking at the time of problem arised. That's what makes you different. And then you need to know the importance. If you are handling a SAE, like serious adverse event, and you said like, I don't need when the date of death happened, that's wrong. You need to know that, okay, I'm handling a serious adverse event. You need to have that seriousness and you need to understand what's actually important in that. So there is a data missing. You need to understand, no, this is not acceptable. This is important and this needs to be done. And there are certain pages where the data might be missed. And then you know it's not clearly that important, then you can provide the guidance. Site doesn't have the information and this is not critical to trial, so it's fine. You need to make those decisions on your own also, which will increase your level of expertise. Okay, so these are the major things. If you are interested in clinical data management, all each and every step, I'm saying it's not a difficult task or different stream to start on with. Even automation comes and goes, but data management needs reviewers. Data management needs humans who will create first of all these things, right? So there is plenty of opportunity in clinical data management, and if you have these three which I'm saying, you can just play with it. Okay, I think I have used extra time of yours as well. If any questions, sorry, we can give us 10 minutes and I can resolve, or else you can reach out to me. I will just give my email ID and phone number. You can reach out to me anytime you want. Guys, now you can speak. I don't mind. You can ask stupid questions. I'm the one who does that all the time when I'm in the college. I don't know what I ask sometimes also. Are there any questions? Any doubts? What everyone are planning to you? I mean, planning to do in the next, I don't know how many years, 6 years here. Don't say states, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a good thing. Please, it's your future. You can do whatever you want to do. Do anyone have any issue? Are anyone planning actually? Okay, someone is here.
Please ask the questions if you have. Don't feel shy to ask the questions. There is no wrong in asking any question.
Absolutely.
Nobody's going to beat you or nobody's going to go scold you. Okay.
And I won't see your face again. Okay, you are not. I don't know you people also. You can just come and shoot me.
So if you are really interested in joining CDM and all, you can just ask her. She'll help you in that.
Yes, for sure.
And hope all the lecture has been helpful for you in joining the CDM.
I hope so.
She has given a good path for you. She has directed a good thing in all the aspects. So that could make you more interested. If you're interested in that, you can just go, you can contact her or you can ask her any opportunity in IQVIA or anywhere else. They'll be knowing you all the 5th and 6th years. If you are having a will of joining in CDM, this could help you, I think, the most. But she has given the vast information in CDM and all these things, and you have been more benefited. Actually, when we are doing a found, we don't have that much knowledge on all these things. But you people are
Yes.
now more familiar and you're getting to know a lot number of things. You can easily plan your future too very well. So if you don't have any doubts, you can just simply close the session.
It's good to meet you guys. If you are feeling, any issue to talk up now, you can reach out. Feel free to reach out to me via my email. I will respond. Or I know many of you know my number. Feel free to call me anytime. No problem.
Thank you, Divya. On behalf of Chalapati Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, I thank you for sparing your valuable time and interacting with your alumni and your juniors and guiding them in the way of CDM. Thank you. I thank our principal sir, Dr. Radha Ramarao garu and Y. Anjaneyal garu for giving us good platform for organizing this type of guest lectures and inviting our alumni as well as some guests who are well versed in the particular area. And thank you all for your patient listening and patient support for having this good session. Thank you.